So this is a fun one. SegaSonic the Hedgehog. You have to make sure to say Sega and Sonic as if it was like one joint word, or else it doesn't work. Inspired by Marble Madness, this game hit the Japanese market in 1993 and never came out again. Ever. Never, ever. Kind of a shame, too. SegaSonic, as one word, did feature a few other arcade cabinets and games, but one of them was a space shooter and the other one was a popcorn maker minigame. The last of them, or the first of them, I guess we'll call it, was more or less a board game with, it's basically a pinball table, but it wasn't like an actual, pinball table per se. I know, it was kind of a weird situation. It was just a tabletop game. There you go. And there was the canceled game, the SegaSonic Bros, which was a puzzle-based game. Yeah, none of those interested me too much, as interesting as they may be. However, there is one that I wanted to play, and it's naturally the platformer. This game has two characters in it, Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. Names you should somewhat know, as they're in Sonic Mania Plus. However, my interest is mostly with Mighty, as he's also playable in another obscure game named Knuckles Chaotix. I'm planning on playing that one relatively soon. This is actually Mighty's first appearance, and while this game never made it out of Japan officially, there were plans to bring it stateside. One of those plans was a port for the 32X. Yeah, I'm going to be reviewing that relatively soon. The 32X is a Sega Genesis add-on, and yeah, should be my next video. Maybe. Hat in Time might beat it out. Regardless, this never panned out. They also wanted to bring this game with the Sonic Gems Collection 2, a collection for the GameCube I mentioned in my Sonic CD review a month back. Again, this didn't exactly pan out as they couldn't get the movements mapped well to a controller, an issue that I'm also going to have to talk about. Honestly, there's always been talks of re-releasing this game in some form or another, but it literally never happened ever, which is a shame. The only way to actually get this game outside of Japan is the old R-matey method, which brings issues, namely controller support. See, the original arcade cabinet had a unique controller, one button, and a trackball. This does not move over well in emulation. Oops. Sure, I can move, I can kind of get the characters running in certain directions, but I was never able to get them moving consistently how they were supposed to. Sure, I had infinite quarters. Sure, I could mostly beat the game. I'd say mostly. But I couldn't play the game correctly. And no, I didn't fully beat it. I'm only talking about the game this time around, rather than giving it a full review. Still, I'll talk about my points as best I can, so let's give this the old college try. Let's do this. Let's take on Eggman Island. So the story kind of goes like this. Taking a page out of Arcade's book, Arcade from Marvel Comics, Eggman has decided to hunt down Sonic and even managed to catch some of his friends. He sends them to Eggman Island, an island he captured and repurposed into a large death trap-like maze that the characters must now navigate to escape. There aren't really any boss fights to speak of or anything like that. It's just Eggman watching you do all the work to get the hell off his island, which isn't exactly easy to do. While I never made it to the true ending, the three do get to Eggman, who basically blows up the entire island. They escape and he gets stranded. It's a simplistic plot that I'd expect from a 1993 Sonic game, but it does keep somewhat original from the series, which I'm actually okay with. So when talking about the presentation, this game actually looks really good. The music and sound effects are pretty decent, and there's even voice acting. Not bad at all, although the arcades just have more power in general, so I guess, yeah, it's to be expected a little bit. Hot Pursuit is a pretty decent track, and I like Trap Tower, but Ice and Water just sounds so ominous. It's still a good track, though. Run 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 is a decent track, and Eggman's Tower has fantastic high-energy piece. The end credits theme is pretty decent, too. The only real issue is none of these tracks really match up to anything the other OSTs have, when it comes to Sonic, making this overall weaker in comparison to something like Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Spoiled by good Sonic music, but I'd still say the short but sweet tunes aren't bad either. Maybe a bit high energy, but it was a quarter-munching arcade cabinet after all. Yen munching? That sounds so alien to say. Regardless, the game looks really good, kind of makes up for it. Overall, the graphics are really impressive. Again, an arcade cabinet had more processing power than a console did, as the cabinet only had one game to really work with. Still, the game has a certain level of graphics that look impressive and hold up today. I don't know if the voice acting is good or not. It doesn't sound bad, but yeah, I'm not really familiar with the language or dialect, so that kind of hurts a little bit. I know the story thanks to watching a translated Let's Play, I'm not going to lie. So, when talking about the gameplay, the trackball and single button combo is very interesting. Basically, the trackball would roll around in the arcade cabinet controller area, and the faster it goes, the faster your character goes. Luckily, Ray, Mighty, and Sonic all play roughly the same. The single button allows you to jump and attack, not that you attack a huge amount. It's mostly for finding secrets in the stage. Jumping is much more important. You basically run and jump your way to victory. Translated to controller, however, and I personally couldn't get this to work at all. I could move the character, sure, and I could jump perfectly fine. The running part was sadly the issue, and there are a lot of areas that the game expects you to run in order to pass the level. I kind of could do this, though. I can only get Mighty running here diagonally using a mix of my keyboard and controller. Ironically, without the controller, I can't get them to move diagonally at all. Then when they do move, however, these characters move fast and are prone to heading right off a cliff, if you weren't very careful or just dumb like me. Either way, I'd say the gameplay isn't bad from what I could get working. There really isn't anything you can't deal with if it works perfectly fine, in my opinion. Alright, I'm going to go over the levels individually. Volcanic Vault is a neat little lava run section and some jumps that aren't too bad to make it over. Icy Isles is fun with collapsing platforms and ice blocks that have you dodge, as well as icicles trying to destroy you. Desert Dodge is miserable if you can't run correctly. This stage took forever to get through due to sand traps, but I imagine it's a bit easier with correct controls. Trap Tower has running from a lot of things and a lot of climbing from actual fire, which is the most memorable part of the stage for me. Landside Limbo has more precise platforming and some nasty death traps, but it isn't bad if you have enough money for the credits. Wild Waterway is really fun and actually has enemies to face off, though I don't think you can destroy them like the regular enemies in other Sonic games. Eggman's Tower is a gauntlet of running and climbing with buzzsaws coming out of walls and walkways collapsing. The issues I have at the end of the level, however, is when Eggman sets off the bomb. You have to beat this section or restart the entire game. I hate shit like this, honestly. It doesn't matter how much money you pump into the machine, you die here, you reset all your progress. This is actually very annoying. Don't get me wrong. I could have probably beaten it if I could actually run correctly, and that's not the game's fault. But still, resetting all progress, game overing in an arcade game due to this should just be a cardinal sin, especially with how much money you could pump into the machine just to get to that point. I mean, come on. Imagine pumping an arcade machine full of quarters only to have the game give you the middle finger at the end. Still, overall, I'd say the level design is fine outside that final test being an instant kill for how far you are in the game. There is a single boss fight in the game, around the middle, and it works pretty well in the context of the game itself, so that's cool. No final boss, though. What's that? I said there were no bosses earlier? Yeah, I kind of forgot about this guy. It's not that hard, honestly, even with my controls not working, so... Oops. But, yeah, he's there. He's cool. I like it. It's fine. So, if you play the game pretty diligently, you can find secret ring stashes in the levels. I didn't know this during my playthrough, but you can attack pieces of the wall and environment to get more rings. This only increases your score, but it's still fun that there are hidden goodies and treasures hidden around the stage for you to collect. Overall, I think this is worth your time if this game ever releases in the future officially. However, emulation is difficult for unofficial means, as well as for Sega themselves. That's basically the only reason this game doesn't release, and hasn't released yet. That trackball does not translate well to controllers. That being said, due to this, I can't really give the game a final score either. But, you know, if I was going to score it with the issues I had, I'd at least say it would pull a 7 out of 10, which is still pretty good. It's a short but fun experience, and I hope this does get officially released here in the United States, as well as other countries. Japan too, since the cabinets are, probably expensive to buy at this point. I am glad I could at least play the game to some degree and talk about it for you guys. Plus, this introduces Mighty the Armadillo, which works well in my favor. The next couple of projects I'm doing is a 32X review, followed by Mighty's other playable appearance in the 90s, Knuckles Chaotix. Although I'm really close to finishing Hat in Time as well, so I might do a rematch for Hat in Time somewhere in between then. Until then, thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. Hit the bell for live updates, and I'll see you all later, my minions. Take care. Yeah, I'm doing better in breathing. Okay, bye-bye.